Depression is one of the most common psychological problems in modern Britain. More people are seeking professional help because of depressive illnesses than ever before. Here we look at some of the more common psychological symptoms of depression and suggest ways to combat them. The cognitive or psychological symptoms of depression, what we think about, are just as important as the physiological ones. Some people believe that psychological symptoms are more important, but this isn't necessarily true. After all, there's no such thing as the mind-body split. Most people tend to think in a particular way. They tend to tell themselves the same sort of gloomy, pessimistic things over and over again. This is what psychologists call negative thinking, and after a while it becomes a habit. When that happens, it's described as automatic negative thinking. Complicated, isn't it? This habit formation is one of the most damaging aspects of depression because it locks the sufferer into a downward spiral which drags them deeper and deeper into despair. The three general thinking errors are ignoring the positive. People seem much more likely to focus upon bad things that happen to them than they are upon the good. Exaggerating the negative. Having focused upon bad stuff, many people then seem to blow it out of all proportion until it overwhelms them. And overgeneralization. One swallow doesn't make a summer. One difficult conversation doesn't mean it's going to be one of those days, and a couple of frustrations this week don't mean you'll never succeed at anything. But let's look at some more precise forms of depressed thinking. Things will never get any better. If we believe this, then we also believe that there's no point in trying to improve things. This one thought stops depressed people from joining in with their treatment plans. They become lethargic and apathetic. Not the most helpful start to recovery. People would be better off without me. It's not difficult to see where this thought pattern is leading. Many depressed people are so convinced of their own worthlessness that they come to see themselves as nothing more than a burden to others. This idea can lead to withdrawal, social isolation, shame, and even self-harm or suicide. Once again, this is not a helpful way to think about yourself. I can't help being depressed after what I've been through. This is a remarkably common depressive thought. It also seems quite reasonable at first glance. People who've been through difficult times are almost expected to become depressed. The problem is that such a belief system takes away the individual's choices. If you believe depression is inevitable, you won't really struggle against it, and you won't change it until you believe you suffered enough. It's often interesting to ask people how much suffering will be enough. Some people wear their depression like a badge. It's as though they think they've earned it and no one's going to take it away from them. Well, of course, it's true. They have a perfect right to feel as depressed as they like for as long as they like. The question is, why would they want to? This is not to say that all depressed people choose to be depressed. That's not my point at all. But some people become so used to the lifestyle, the feeling of depression, they begin to doubt that there's any alternative. These people wear their depression. Depression runs in my family. It's genetic. This attitude is called determinism. That's the idea that people are helpless victims of fate. They believe that because their parents suffered from depression, they also must. Of course, it's true that depressive illness does often run in families, but that's not always because of genetics. Sometimes it's simply because of the coping skills we learn from our depressed parents. Skills which can be unlearned or altered, often with surprisingly little effort. Even those people whose depression does appear to be genetic can be helped considerably. once they let go of their deterministic attitudes. So what can depressed people do to help themselves? Well, avoid alcohol, particularly in excess. Don't smoke, it starves the brain and tissues of oxygen and causes lethargy. Eat a healthy diet designed to provide plenty of energy. Take regular aerobic exercise. A brisk walk's usually sufficient. Stop talking and thinking about depression and concentrate on doing things instead. Get involved in a worthwhile project of some kind. Keep mentally active. Write goals, even little ones, to keep motivated. Resolve to make the best of every situation. And adopt happy physiology. Stand straight. Move quickly. Smile. Become an inverse paranoid. Expect good things to happen every day. This doesn't necessarily mean the world will treat you better, but it does mean that you'll notice good things when they do happen, and you won't waste time ruminating about or getting paranoid over the little inconveniences that come to us all. The simple truth is that if depressed people wait around for someone else to make things better for them, it usually won't happen. However, since one of the symptoms of depression is lack of motivation, the big danger is that they will do just that. If you're a support worker or a mental health worker of any kind, your job is to motivate service users to take responsibility for their current mood and circumstances, while still giving assistance as needed. But be careful here. This does not mean they take responsibility for their depression. It doesn't mean that you treat them as people to be blamed for their depression. It simply means that they have to take an active part in their recovery, and we ask them to take responsibility for that. Now, this can be a very difficult balance to strike, and the general rule of thumb is to intervene less and less over time, as the service user is encouraged to do more and more for themselves. But be really careful. This isn't an excuse to abandon people who really need our help. It's simply an awareness that they need to work toward greater independence as time goes on. Thank you for watching. I'm Stuart Sorensen. You can find me at www.mindthecaretraining.com.